Hey there, welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for April 27th. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm an astrologer and a counselor, and I'm excited to bring this astrology to you and to share a few tips with you on how to move through the week with more ease and grace. So this week, an overview of what's happening. We are in the waxing phase of the lunar cycle, so it's a period of growth, moving forward, exploring new opportunities. We will talk about Mercury changing signs and making a conjunction with Uranus. We'll talk about Venus squaring to Neptune and Venus's upcoming retrograde in May, next month. And we'll also talk about the first quarter moon in the sign of Leo. So as always, please take a moment to reflect on what's happening for you right now. What is most present in your life? And we're going to layer these themes of the astrology of the moment onto that, because we always want to start with what's happening for you and how you can apply these themes to your life right now. So as I'm going through, feel free to take notes or to leave me a comment about something that resonates for you, or if you have a question about how something may resonate for you. So first things first, Mercury will move into the sign of Taurus. This is happening on Monday. So Mercury is moving from Aries into Taurus. And this is important because Mercury is a symbol of communication, thought process. It is also a symbol of meaning making. So our language, our words, the letters of our alphabet are all symbols. I say chair, and that word chair is not actually the chair itself. It's just a stand-in for that image, for that knowing of what a chair is. So when we're tracking Mercury, we're really looking at where our symbolic mind is. So this can be practical in the way of words and linear thought, but I want you to be thinking about where your symbols are moving this month as well. So we're moving the symbol mind from Aries, which is a cardinal fire sign, so very like initiatory and quick acting, quick thinking, thinking from a place of passion, to Taurus, which is a fixed earth sign. Fixed is about sustaining over long periods of time. It's about a marathon mentality, marathon mindset, and earth, of course, is about practical matters. I think it's important to note also that Taurus is ruled by Venus. And so we're going to Venus in a moment, but I want you to keep that in mind too, that the mind is focused with this transition while Mercury's in the sign of Taurus, and I'll tell you how long that is. So it's moving to Taurus on Monday the 27th, and it'll be there until about May 11th or so. So the other piece of this that's important as well is that because Uranus is still at the very beginning of Taurus, this means that Mercury will conjunct Taurus. So Mercury will conjunct Uranus. So Mercury is the mind, right? The way that we think about things. And Uranus is a symbol of innovation and very unexpected change. Now this can be change that we like, it can be change that kind of like throws us off, like the symbol of the tower in the tarot, if you're familiar with that symbology. If you're not, it is, I think in a way what's happening right now in the world as well, where things are disrupted. And so this, I feel like, could be a burst of innovation, a burst of inspiration this week, or even like if you're able to be in a place where you can think outside the box. That's very in alignment with Mercury-Uranus energy. So I want you to be thinking about that. And also, as I'm talking too, like, is there an area of your life where it feels like things are either not working or there's something that needs to change, but you're not quite sure what that is, or maybe there's a change that you've been thinking about. So this is Mercury-Uranus energy. And yeah, so that's what I want to say about that. The second thing that's happening this week is Venus square Neptune. So this is important for a few different reasons. Number one, whenever I see Venus in aspect to Neptune, especially a conjunction or a square or an opposition, what's called a hard aspect, I think that this is important because it does bring up situations around relationships, Venus, and where we are either inspired or kind of like disillusioned in some way, and it can kind of go either way. This is Neptune, the inspiration or disillusion. Neptune shows where we have very high ideals, where we have massive imagination, and oftentimes the vision for something does not line up with reality. And so in contrast, Venus Neptune is also incredibly creative, and people that have this aspect in their natal chart, especially when it's a square, I feel, because it is channeled through them in a way that is difficult to avoid or difficult to ignore, they can be highly creative. They can divine something that is very special and very unique and sort of feels like otherworldly. So the other piece of this too is, of course, if you're familiar with my work at all, you know that I've talked a lot about codependence and this pattern that happens, especially with Venus Neptune, where there can be, with Venus Neptune, when people have this in their natal chart, sometimes there is a tendency to want someone else to take responsibility. And that can show up as feeling kind of defeated, or like you're in a position of not having any power, not having any control, or being the victim of a situation. And so that's not to say that everyone that has this aspect will feel that way, but it's a common tendency, and it's something that I want you to just watch out for this week, because the other thing with Neptune is that it's all about consciousness. It is all about your state of mind, and people that have a very strong Neptune in their natal chart as well. So if Neptune is making a close aspect to any personal planets or points, people that have this, they can get like swept away with a fantasy or with an illusion, and it can be very easy to get kind of into like a fear spiral, because the imagination is there and it's just going into fear versus something that's more uplifting. So I share all of this with you because this is also involving Venus, which is the planet of relationship. It's the planet of what it is that you value, what you find attractive, what you find beautiful, what you find calming and soothing, what you find pleasant. And Venus will, so this idea around illusion, around ideals and relationships is very present this week. And so the way, and I'll have some more information on the tips for you to really work with this, but I want you to be thinking about what is the foundation of your relationships now? What is your inspiration around relationships? And how do you feel seen? How do you feel heard? And if you're interested in any kind of spiritual or creative work, how are you bringing that into your life right now? My light just went off there for a second. Let's see if I can turn it back on. All right, there we go. Technical difficulties. Okay, so the other piece of this too that I want to just plant a seed that I'll talk about more next month is that Venus will be going retrograde. So Venus goes retrograde about every 2-ish years, I think, if I remember that right. The dates for that are, let's see, Venus will retrograde on the 13th of May at 21 degrees of Gemini. And then it will station direct, let's see, on the 25th of June at 5 degrees of Gemini. So it's going through, Venus is going through this swath of Gemini. So I want you to pay attention to relationships in general, not because of this week, because of the Venus-Neptune, but also because Venus is something that will be evaluated and reviewed. Relationships, again, values. Venus I also see as a symbol of self-worth as well. And that's ultimately what it is that you value outside and inside of yourself. So that's that. Let's see. We also have the first quarter moon in Leo. So this is happening on Thursday. And first quarter moon I see as a pivot point. I see as a time when we can become very clear about what we want and what we don't want. So we're in the growth stage of the lunar cycle. We have this every single month, and every single month there's an opportunity to take advantage of the opportunities that you have in front of you. And so I want you to be thinking about that, especially this being in the sign of Leo. Leo is all about being appreciated, being adored. It is also about creativity as well. So I think that's interesting. There is a theme here around creative self-expression. And so if you have space and time for that, that may be something interesting for you to investigate this week. All right, so I have some tips for you. Tip number 1 is to welcome the unknown. And so this is tapping into both the Mercury-Uranus, Uranus especially being the unknown, and then also tapping into the Venus-Neptune. So when we have Venus-Neptune, things can feel kind of otherworldly or confusing even. Neptune can sensitize us, but it also is not really great for you know, being in the practical everyday kind of world. So I want you to explore that, to be comfortable with and welcoming to the unknown, to be okay with not knowing everything right now. Tip number 2 is I want you to notice where you're inspired, where you are curious about something. This is again very Venus-Neptune, to follow that curiosity, to explore things that are interesting to you. That's going to be very helpful this week. And tip number 3, also Venus-Neptune, is I want you to look at where you feel fear. Where are you afraid of something, or where do you feel like you are a victim of your circumstance? And this is a great topic to do some reflection, some journaling, even if you just want to take a walk and think about it. Because there is this theme around Venus-Neptune where if we're not in a position of power, that fear can start as something very teeny, and it can kind of like get blown out of proportion. And so the way that we meet this is by exploring it, by being curious about it. So those are your tips. I'm going to pull, I think, 2 different cards for today, 2 different kinds. And as always, I like to hear how you're doing. So leave me a comment and let me know how this resonates with you. Maybe there's a particular piece that you're really feeling. I think it's so interesting with astrology because there's so many different pieces of the puzzle that fit into an individual person's life. So like we have the world transits, the universal transits, what I've just talked about, what's happening now. But then you also have your personal circumstances, what's going on with you right now. You have your own personal natal chart that you're working with. the influences of the other people in your life and the choices that you make within all of those circumstances. So it's such an elaborate and delicate and detailed plan that we live through. No wonder life is so complicated, right? Okay, so this is a little bit of a meditative contemplation card for you, and then an advice card. Oh, okay. Interesting. So this is the Ace of Wands. It's one of my favorite cards. So what do you notice right away when you see this card? And I'll share with you what jumps out at me. I did pull this reversed too, so if you work with reversals, it might be interesting to look at it reversed. So Ace of Wands is about new beginnings, the Ace. Wands is about passion and desire and moving forward with things. I'm always struck by the wands, or by the aces, how there's something that seems to be just kind of coming out of nowhere, and that's the energy that I'm feeling from this. And also I'm really looking at the wand and how it has all of these little like leaves and things that are coming out of it. So it feels like a present. It feels like maybe there's something new that is like a new passion or something that's exciting to you this week, that's coming forward. And the way that I would look at this too is, the way that I see it is, it's like the wand is coming forward from the past maybe. So I don't know if that resonates with you or not, but that's something that jumps out at me. All right, and then I hope this isn't boring for you with the cards. I know some people like the cards more than others, but I like them. I think it's always interesting to see what comes through, and I'm a big believer in synchronicity and that symbols speak to us and they tell us what is most helpful at any point in time. Oh, this one. Okay. Oh, this is the, okay, I'm gonna show you, there's an image and then I'll read the thing to you, okay? So this is the image, and this is actually called the rainbow. So it says the rainbow is a universal symbol of a promise of hope and redemption. If it appears in your dream, you may be coming toward the resolution of a troubling issue. Alternatively, perhaps the rainbow represents a bridge between this world and your inner life. Are your dreams urging you to connect with your inner sensitivity? Have you been caught up in material or superficial matters and thus been neglectful of your spiritual self? So I think it's weird that oh, you know what? Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so trippy. So I'm like, this doesn't look like a rainbow. I actually pulled 2 cards. So you get 3 cards. This is the rainbow. Isn't that pretty? So you get 3 cards. Okay, let's look at this guy. This is the shadow. Oh my gosh, we got the rainbow and the shadow. That's trippy. The shadow is our dark side of our dark side and our instinctual self. Psychologist Carl Jung, one of my favorite people, names it as one of his archetypes, the thing that we have no wish to be. The shadow, impervious to destruction, often appears in nightmares and is usually the same sex as the dreamer, with a threatening presence. I have some thoughts about that I'll share with you. Despite this frightening nature, the shadow is deeply valuable. Its urges may represent a goal that you harbor, and its primal energy will help you conquer obstacles. Search your dream for anything that the shadow might have been encouraging you to do. How might this represent one of your desires, hidden or otherwise? Okay, so I think it's really interesting that we pulled like, it's like the light and the shadow, and a polarity that is so important to work with. And I'm really thinking of like Venus, Neptune going on here. So the shadow in depth psychology, it is a symbol of the self, and it is a symbol of the self, the part of yourself that you are not aware of consciously. Through self-reflection and working with someone in therapy or counseling, that is how the shadow is something that you become more aware of. And oftentimes the shadow, you can understand what qualities shadow are for you just by seeing what people annoy you. What people either like evoke a very strong reaction to you. If you have a strong aversion towards a person or towards certain qualities in people, that is your shadow side. And it's not always necessarily that you are that thing. In my experience, it can be that way, but sometimes it's like there's something there that you feel like is not you for some reason, and it is you in a certain way, but maybe you've been told that it's a negative quality for some reason. So I hope that makes sense and is not overly confusing. The other part of this with the shadow showing up as the same sex as the dreamer, I think that, you know, Carl Jung was a product of his time where gender was more fixed, and I don't find that that necessarily holds true in dream work anymore. I think that's a whole other talk, but I would say, you know, important to look at your dreams, and there's not really any hard, fast rules, to just, you know, work with your dreams and notice what comes up, what kinds of features and what types of qualities are there. So I hope that makes sense and is not too confusing. If you want to chat more about this, let me know, and maybe I'll make some videos about it. But I do feel like to tie a bow around this, we had the Ace of Wands, which is new beginning, and then we had a symbol of the shy rainbow and the shadow coming together. So some really interesting themes and some beautiful themes around creativity and dream work. All right, that is your forecast for the week. I am wishing you well, sending you lots and lots of love for the week ahead. And of course, if you are wanting some extra support from an astrological perspective, you can contact me about setting up an astrological counseling session via email or on my website, ShaunaMcGrathAstrology.com. Talk to you soon.